Evening. Welcome to House Groups. My name is David Sorn. I'm the lead pastor at Renovation Church. Hey, we are continuing through our study of Luke, one of the four stories about Jesus, four books in the Bible about Jesus. And we are in Luke chapter 22. So just to give you some context, we're in Jesus' last week of his life. Last week we covered the Last Supper, which takes place on the Thursday night, the night before Jesus is going to be crucified the next morning. And now they've finished the Last Supper, and in our passage today, Jesus says, you know what, one of you is going to betray me. And the disciples begin to argue about it, saying, oh, surely not I, Lord. And what we find is this then sort of disintegrates into this conversation where they all of a sudden start arguing about which one of them is the greatest. And Jesus corrects them and he says, listen, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules should be like the one who serves. This is just so close to the heart of Christianity that we would, like Jesus, that we would pour our lives out for other people. Let me explain this with a true story. It's a true story about a man named Sadhu Singh, who's a Hindu convert to Christianity, and became like a pastor, a famous missionary to his people in India. Well, late one afternoon, a sadhu was walking, traveling on foot through the Himalayas along with a Buddhist monk. And they're in this place where it's, they're up in the mountains, it's bitterly cold, a snowstorm had begun, and the monk said to Sadhu, he said, listen, we got to get back to my monastery by nightfall or we could freeze to death out here. Well, they're walking along this narrow path that's kind of by this smaller cliff, and all of a sudden they hear a man crying out for help, down at the bottom of this small cliff. And the Buddhist monk looks sternly at Sadhu and he says, do not stop. This man's actions have brought him to his fate. He's got to work it out for himself. Let us just hurry on or we're going to perish out here too. And so what is he saying? This is really important to understand as we have more and more religions in this country now. Well, the Buddhists, along with the Hindu, believe in karma. And so the Buddhist monk is saying that this man must have done something wrong, and now he has to deal with his karma, and so we must not interfere with that. By the way, this is why Christianity is just exploding in places like Southern Asia right now, in places like Nepal, for example, because the Christian can show love to people even if they have messed up, or even if they are suffering, which is, we would say, in many cases, unrelated to their sin. Okay, back to the story. So Sadhu, the Christian missionary, he looks at the Buddhist monk and he says, no way. I mean, think about what's happening here. God has sent me to this place right now so that we can save this man. Well, the Buddhist monk says, no way, and he goes off by himself to try and just figure it out to save himself. Sadhu goes down, he picks up the man. The man had a broken leg, and so he had to carry the man in the snowstorm in the Himalayas. And he's carrying them, and it's so difficult, and he's trudging along, and finally, off in the distance, he can see the lights from the monastery. And just as he does, he trips and he falls on something in the road. And he looks down and he starts wiping off whatever it was in the road. And it's the dead body, frozen to death, of the Buddhist monk. Now, years later, one of the members of Sadhu's ministry, one of his disciples, asked him, he said, Sadhu, what is life's most difficult task? What's like the hardest thing to go through in life? And without hesitation, Sadhu replied, to have no burden to carry. See, this is a deep, old truth that our American modern culture has just shoved under the rug. Instead, we've just chosen to always put ourselves first. But if you buy into the culture's idea that you're number one, that you always need to care about yourself first, and you always need to think about yourself first, what will happen in doing that is you will lack purpose. And when you lack purpose, you inevitably just slowly start to drown in this degradation of self-centeredness. But God has a purpose for you. And it's not in self-fulfillment. It's not in fulfilling all your desires and needs and wants. The purpose, life, is actually found in serving other people. Amen.